So we are looking at questions 8 to 18 for Why Don't You Dance by Raymond Carver. And the first question we have how would you describe the girl and why? We would describe her as outspoken and bold. We could also, I had read this one in the last lesson. The girl negotiates cost of the furniture on behalf of the boy. This, interesting note, because it wasn't until 1974 that women were given financial protection under the law. Women were not allowed to open bank accounts without some restrictions. So readers can characterize a girl as bold. I will put assertive. I like that. Assertive, which means assured of herself. Um, speaks with like speaks with authority. And then going on, this is also how we could really describe the relationship as well. She's kind of the one telling him, influencing him. Come here, try the bed. And she's telling him, wouldn't it be funny if we actually don't know what she means by that, but the boy does end up um flicking on the slide and laying there, so we're not sure what they were doing. But wait, so we could say the relationship can be described as a happy one because they are laughing and enjoying themselves in a stranger's front lawn. They, as far as the dynamics, that would be like who has the power, who doesn't. As far as the dynamics, it appears that the girl has more influence and authority over the boy because he allows her to negotiate the prices of the furniture, and he goes along with her antics in the yard. Antics are just anything you're doing that's kind of silly. Lay down in this bed with me. Kiss me. That could be considered antics. And then that one, you guys can really come to whatever conclusion you want, because this is what it says. Wouldn't it be funny if the boy left for no good reason? For no good reason, he switched the reading lamp on. The boy stood up and tucked in his shirt. Whatever we might think happened could have happened. For 11, why is the man unwilling to bargain the prices of the furniture? I think I was thinking $50 for the bed. Would you take 40? I'll take 40. That's what they mean by bargaining. He doesn't even like give a response. He just accepts her cost. He doesn't say, "Okay, here's 50, I can do 45 or 48." He doesn't take any of it off. He just immediately 15's okay. I could take 15. Like that's kind of a lot, especially in this time period. $10 in nine actually now I have to look. This was 1966. How much was $10 in 1966? It would have been $96. That way. Yeah, you always want to check a couple of them, but this seems to be the consensus here. So, we could even say that in our the man is unwilling to bargain the prices of the furniture, and he is accepting payment of $10 less than what he originally suggested to the couple. It is important to note that the story was published in 1960. I'll say in the 1960s, when $10 would be the equivalent of almost $100 today due to inflation. Inflation just means that over time, the cost of everything ends up going up because there's like more money in the economy and whatnot. So whenever you're reading a story and you're asked to analyze it, and the story was published in one time, and then it's bringing up money or something, it's always I always think it's interesting for whoever's grading your work to know that how much the money actually was worth, because it can really put things into a different perspective. Now that we know $10 back then was $100, this guy was being really generous. All right. So maybe you can say, the man might have not wanted to negotiate the prices because he is either generous or desperately wanted to get rid of the furniture. And then if we were assuming that his wife died on the furniture, that would be, I don't know. Okay. All right. Why doesn't the boy drink? Ooh, well, wait. Why doesn't the boy drink? Well, he does end up drinking, but at the start, you kids have a drink. I'm gonna sit down. That's enough. The girl says, I want water in mine. She pulled out water. The water's in that spigot, the man said. Turn on the spigot. The boy came back with the watered whiskey, cleared his straw, and sat down. He grinned but didn't drink anything from his glass. Maybe at first, maybe he's waiting to negotiate the cost of the goods. Or maybe he just wants to, well, no, they already did that. Maybe he has to move them, or because how is the boy going to get the furniture back to the house? They might be driving. They might have driven there, or they were walking. We could maybe assume, well, when the boy does drink, he actually gets drunk. So he says, I'm going to turn off the TV. And then it goes to red. The boy says, I'm getting it in the head. He held up his glass and jiggled it. This is signifying, so this would be idiom. This is an idiom. It goes to your head about the effects of alcohol. It can make people drunk. Okay, so then we could say here, it is possible the boy did not drink at first because he was still in the process of negotiating the furniture deal with the man. So he wanted to keep a clear head. As soon as the boy does begin drinking, he states that he is getting it in the head, which would be an idiom implying that he is intoxicated. That would be another word for drunk, a fancy word. So we could say the boy must understand that he has a very low alcohol tolerance. So he avoided drinking for as long as he could before succumbing to the pressures from the girl and the man. They kind of pressured him, right? I don't know. We could say, you could interpret it this way. And like I will say, this is not like the answer. This story is entirely up for interpretation. So you really can put whatever you think as long as you're putting in some evidence. Like here I gave the evidence. So, and then an evidence doesn't just have to be a quote, right? Like here we didn't even use a quote. We just explained that the man was taking less than $10 of what it was, and that's a lot of money. So that's what I mean when I say evidence. You don't need a direct quote. Some if it works, it works, and it's just an explanation. Because remember, you don't have to go into this gigantic like summary of the story either, because whoever read your paper or your questions, it's like obviously your teacher, so your teacher knows the story very well, and the grader too. When you're on a test, you would assume that the person grading had to read the story. I've read like a million stories grading tests. All right. Ooh, the man's cigarette dropped from his fingers and fell between the cushions. How do we feel about that? This would mean he's very drunk. And actually, this used to happen kind of a lot. Like, well, not a lot, but cigarette companies. When did cigarette companies make the ember stop burning? So, cigarettes used to just burn indefinitely. Recent advances in cigarette ignition propensity. Fire safe cigarettes. There. Wait a minute. That's in Connecticut. That's all the way in 2004. So basically, an ember is a thing at the end of the cigarette that's burning and smoking. And like, if people would have dropped it in a couch or something prior to 2004, that can't be true. It would burn, and it could like definitely burn like on fire. I don't know if I could how to, but this would signify that he was intoxicated because people know if you drop your cigarette, that's kind of something. It's on fire. So if you drop anything that's on fire, it's alarming. You could say. Um, how do I feel about it? I feel very alarmed that he is dropping his lit cigarette into a couch. A lit cigarette can easily start fabric on fire. So that is obviously dangerous. I would also assume that the man is heavily intoxicated at this point in the story if he is if he is dropping lit cigarettes into furniture. That would really be that. And then I'm gonna fix that. Okay, so now we have the girl didn't know any of the records. What does this indicate? I guess you could say, do your parents ever listen to music that you don't know? And if so, the reason is because the songs weren't out when you were born. So then, if you were ever going to hear the music, you would have to kind of like find it and listen to it, especially if it's not going to be on the mainstream that you would hear throughout your day. Like you might hear music in a store, or you might hear music on a commercial, or on a show, or on the radio. So this just implies or indicates that he's older, he's more experienced. And then we get to the question, our significance of the title. Why does this man say, why don't you dance? We don't know. We can assume whatever we want. I might assume because he's drunk and maybe he's bored. We could also maybe assume maybe he is trying to like assert authority because the boy says he doesn't want to. The man might be pressuring or exerting authority over the boy. The man could be exhibiting territorial behavior. Okay, this sounds weird, but let me explain. Okay, like if this story has like themes surrounding like toxic masculinity. So toxic masculinity are things like bad habits that men are almost pushed to have because of society. So you could say like toxic masculinity is this idea that men should drink whiskey. That's not really healthy. It's not alcohol in any means. It's always poison. Alcohol is poison. So to say that like you could say that the man territorial would mean if there's two men and just one woman, a man's instinct, his territorial instinct, like lions are territorial. There can only be one male in the pride. This would be this assumption. I could assume that this is based on some territorial thing. The man is maybe kind of like trying to embarrass the boy just a little bit. Because to ask somebody to do something that they don't want to do, it's just, and they don't have to do it, no one's going to like get hurt or anything if he doesn't do it. So it's weird. You could say, it is possible. So this is my interpretation. And if also when you're writing a claim, you should try to be dramatic about it. Like, it is, I believe, all right, I'm going to put it like that. Okay, so I'll say, I believe the man asks the couple to dance because he is behaving in a territorial fashion towards the boy. The characters, the man, the man exhibits several traits that could be called examples of toxic masculinity. These traits could include heavy drinking and smoking for heavy drinking and smoking in order to appear masculine. Toxic masculinity is when you do traits that are like actually not masculine. They're just toxic for you. That's what this would mean. So when the boy expresses he is uncomfortable with dancing in the yard, the man responds that it is his yard. And then you could even say, thus exhibiting authority over the boy. And then another answer. I believe this is a totally separate answer. You could have two. I believe that the man was heavily intoxicated from drinking whiskey throughout the entire day the story is set in. So the story's set in one day. Now I'm using a literary term here. The story is set in. The man was just seeking some sort of entertainment from this young couple. And in this interpretation, I don't really see anything wrong with it. It's just this guy, and he's drunk, and he's weird. And then we would have the man and the girl dance, and they don't care about being seen. Once again, the man assures the girl that it is his driveway, so it is fine if they dance. The man gives permission and reassurance to the girl while the boy is unsure of his decisions and too drunk to continue dancing. The man dancing with the girl could show readers that the man has a more powerful role in society. So the girl is drawn to him. He owns land, he might be kind of wealthy. This could also play into this idea of, and this would be a stereotype, but if the girl was like a gold digger, so that would be, and men can be gold diggers too. This is this idea that someone's really old. If you have someone that's older, and then they have a young, like very attractive husband or wife. The idea, the young attractive husband or wife might be referred to as a gold digger, meaning that they, um, or also a trophy wife, and it's also explained. It would just be a person who forms a relationship with another purely to extract money from them. It doesn't obviously come off that this guy is that rich, but he does keep saying, "It's my house, it's my house, it's my land, it's my property." So there's that. Um, Maybe you could say something along those lines, like the girl is attracted to the man because of those things. You could also say the girl. It could just show that the girl is drunk because she's also been drinking. And then when we have the last two lines, how hard is it for her to describe? There was more to it, and she was trying to get it out. So this you could just interpret whatever. Maybe she kissed the guy. Like maybe she wanted to kiss him. Maybe he kissed her. Maybe nothing happened and she just keeps trying to talk about it. We don't know what happened, but we do know that whatever happened greatly affected the girl because why else is she telling everyone about it? Why does she think at the end that there's more to it and she has to get it talked up? So you could say the reader can interpret the experience between the man and the girl as one that was intimate. It is possible the girl either cheated on the boy or wanted to. So after the experience, she is trying to talk it out with her peer group. Maybe. It's whatever you think. How does alcohol function in a story? The alcohol has a huge function. Alcohol has a huge function in the story. Actually, I would say alcohol functions as a motif in the story. So a motif is just a reoccurring event that happens over and over. You could say the whiskey can be used throughout the story to measure the inhibitions of the man. The man becomes more intoxicated throughout the story, which results in him behaving more eccentrically. And then you could even say the alcohol could also be a symbol for reckless behavior. As the story progresses, the girl drinks her watered down whiskey and makes the decision to dance with the man. Later, she won't stop talking about the incident. So it is possible if she needs to talk it out, she might have been in some sort of blackout. So a blackout would be when somebody drinks too much and then they have like lapses in their memory. Um, Her drinking from the day may have resulted in a lapse of memory, which causes her to need to talk out what occurred because she does not remember. You could go down that way. I never really thought about it that way, but that's kind of a that would if you were that would be a dark way to do the story. Um, if you did it this way, you'd be kind of implying that he drugged her and did something to her, which the one thing I would say, why would she have kept all his stuff if like he did something to her? So I don't think you could interpret it that way if you want to, but you'd have to kind of explain why she kept the stuff. I guess that's easy. Everybody copes with traumatic experiences in a different way. You could maybe also say that she hasn't even remembered it yet. Maybe she needs to go through some type of like hypnosis therapy. Or you could just say it's all in fun. And this story was just a silly story about strangers having a memorable experience together. If you read the story, you absolutely had no idea how you could interpret it, right? And then you go down here to and you're going to do a central idea essay, right? You would have to identify a central idea or the author's message. That would be really hard to do if you really didn't know. Or maybe you just didn't want to say. Maybe it makes you uncomfortable and you don't want to say that, right? You could, at the very least, right? This is a story about the universal experience of having a memorable confrontation with a stranger. Everyone can maybe remember a time in their lives when they like met a stranger somewhere and it was like maybe you're on vacation with your family and then you always kind of remember, hey, remember when we met that guy and he was doing that? That was crazy. This could be a central idea, a message that sometimes in life, in societies, people meet up and need something from each other. In this case, they needed the furniture, and it was a weird kind of experience, but it was memorable. And then you could write about the plot, maybe the resolution being in the end when she doesn't know what she thinks about it. You could write that. You could also do one if you're gonna say for sure the wife died. You could say how grief affects people. You could do a central idea on alcohol, because then you could say that you would be implying that she regrets what happened. She doesn't exactly say that, but she says there's more to it, and she wants to get it talked out. So that's what that one would imply. She did something, and she's regretful, because why else would she need to talk about it? That would be if you're doing that interpretation. You can interpret it however you want. All right, and that would be the end.